Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is showing you how to create a dashboard in Google Sheets. Yeah, you should be able to see this dashboard now that we're going to be recreating. And let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is hide this and recreate the entire thing from scratch. Okay, to do so, if you go back and look at any of our earlier how to use Google Sheets live streams, you'll see how this particular worksheet that's being shown now was created. And the reason why that's important is because there's a chart that already exists. This video is not about creating charts, it is about creating dashboards. So what we're going to do is grab this chart, we're going to right click on it, or better yet, we'll highlight it by left clicking, come up to the edit option on the primary menu and click copy. Now we want to come down to the lower left hand corner of the screen and click the add sheet option. It's basically a plus symbol. Okay, so by default Google provides us with a tab name sheet and followed by a number. That number is usually the number that represents the number of tabs that have been created. In this case, it's 7. We're going to change that from sheet 7 to dashboard, and I'm going to call this dashboard 2. And because there already is a dashboard, I don't want to have a conflict in the naming, so we'll call it dashboard 2. Hit enter, and you've changed the name of the new worksheet. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, or rather the next step is, Google Sheets is basically a bunch of cells in a grid pattern. And if we were to start creating our dashboard here, it probably wouldn't. In fact, it would look very similar to the way that it does here. You just have this chart overlaying the cells, and aesthetically it's not very visually pleasing, and really dashboards are about conveying information in a visually easy to understand and digest method. So we'll go back to this tab. So the first thing, the next step rather, is I'm going to make a determination on approximately how big the actual dashboard will be. I'm going to go with 30 rows tall. Okay, so I'm going to select row 1, then come down to row 30, press and hold the shift key, and then left click. I've highlighted every row, and I'm going to come up to the secondary menu bar. I'm going to select a color. I'm going to go with a blue. Okay, so now we have a background that is solid. However, we still have the grid. You can still see the actual grid patterns. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to right click. Keep in mind that rows 1 through 30 are still selected. So anywhere, any activity or function that I execute from this point while those rows are selected will apply to all. So I'm going to right click, my function is not there. I'm going to go to format. I'm going to come down to merge cells. Now I'm going to select merge all because I want every one of these cells that's being displayed to merge. There's an option in here to merge vertically and an option to merge horizontally. This would be more applicable if I was only working with a smaller number of cells. In my case, I want all of the cells from from rows 1 to 30 to all be merged together. I'm trying to build a canvas of sorts. So I'm going to select merge all. And now all of the grid lines have been removed. All of these rows and columns have been merged. So if you recall earlier, we copied the column chart. So it's on the clipboard. So I'm going to do a right click, paste. Okay, and now the beauty of copying it is all of the logic that went into creating this chart copies right over. Google Sheets automatically does the math and the configurations in the background to continue to point back to the data tab where it's actually, which is the source of the information that is being visualized in this chart. So since we're going to have several of these charts, so what we're going to do is minimize the size of this just a little bit. That should be enough. And just eyeball it and position it in such a way that looks good to you. You'll obviously have the opportunity to customize this in any way you want once you get to the end. So then we have a chart. Now there's no name on this chart. I want to give it a name. So I'll double tap on the chart itself. That brings up the customize menu. We want to find the chart and axis titles. Expand that, and one of the fields is title text. So we're going to name this appropriately as column chart, and close out of that, and we're done. There's other features. There's other options. You could make this italics. You could change the font. A lot of different things you could do. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're gonna, since this has already been sized appropriately and already has a name, rather than continuing to use the chart that's on the clipboard, we're going to copy this one instead. You can also, you do that by going to the edit option, selecting copy. And you can also paste this way and start from the beginning. You can go to the edit option and select paste, and it'll drop a copy of that same item that was copied right on top of the initial. So we want to move that. We'll simply highlight it, drag it down here, and just like that, you've created a copy. Again, you can eyeball this for the look and feel of your choice. If you notice, when I'm moving this, there's a red vertical line that appears. Whenever you see that red vertical line, that means that the two charts or the two items, this functionality exists throughout the application, whether you're doing dashboards or not. Any two items, when they're brought into a perfect horizontal alignment or vertical alignment, in this case, you'll get this line. If I were to bring it over here horizontally, same thing. But that's keeps you from having to guess and constantly move and adjust to get the objects aligned. Google Sheets gives you a tool that does that for you. So since these are perfectly aligned, we're going to leave it as is. Now, I don't obviously want two charts that are identical, so what I'm going to do is, this time, instead of double tapping, I'm going to go to the three dots in the upper right hand corner of the chart that I just pasted here. I'm going to left click on that, and one of my options is edit chart. I'm going to click on that, and I'm immediately taken back to the same chart editor sidebar. I'm going to go to, before I name this, I'm going to change the chart style. I want this to be a pie chart. So I'm going to select pie chart. And just like that, I now have a pie chart. I did not have to go in and reconfigure any of the settings or any of the logic that actually is being used to extract the data from the first tab, the data tab, to get this updated. This is another reason why it's more efficient to use a copy and paste method rather than recreating the same chart over and over again. However, we don't want to keep the same name. So rather than going over to the customize option or fields in the chart editor like we did originally, we're simply just going to double tap on the name, and we can edit directly from within the chart itself. We'll give this name, we'll name these as with names that correlate to what they actually are. Hit enter, and yeah, so now you have a pie chart. You can probably guess what we're going to do next. I'm not going to copy again because this initial chart is already on the clipboard. I'm just going to go to edit and paste. I'm going to tap the pasted item, and I'm going to make sure when you're grabbing these charts to move them, that none of the items inside are what's being highlighted. You want to make sure the entire chart itself is being highlighted so that when you move it, only that gets moved. So now we're going to move the chart over. Okay, for some reason I have another window that you guys can't see that keeps opening. I'm not really sure why that's happening. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to start from the edit step. Yeah, that's really unusual. What you guys can't see is I have another window that is constantly appearing. It's unanticipated behavior, and it shouldn't be happening. Okay, there we are. So at this point, we're going to rinse and repeat. The only difference is the types of charts that I'm selecting. I'm going to do a donut chart this time. This time I'm going to change the name from the chart editor. We're going to name this what it is. Again, the data updates itself because we're simply copying this information. This time I'm going to right click and paste as opposed to going up to the menu, showing you guys multiple ways to do these things. There's typically multiple ways to do most things on a computer now. You'll also notice here, because I have objects that are to the left horizontally and below horizontally, now I'm getting two alignment indicators from Google. Two red lines. I'm getting one for horizontal and one for vertical alignment. So it's pretty hard to not have these things perfectly aligned. And what do we want to do with this chart? Let's go back and look at actually this was we'll just look here at our options. Bubble chart. The bubble chart is what we had in our example that we're replicating. So we'll give it the correct name. So far we've got 4 data points in our dashboard. It's looking pretty good. Let's do a couple more here. Simply right click, paste. Yeah, obviously I have a command or something that is causing some unintended behavior. You should not have this problem. I am, for some reason, experiencing this problem. It's not a big deal. It may even be I'm pretty sure it's not a Google Sheets error. I'm positive it's something that's happening on my end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recopy a chart. And paste. Yeah, it's funny because I'm constantly being asked for the dictionary. The dictionary tool is constantly appearing whenever I select this chart. It's very interesting. I don't think I've seen that before. I'm going to edit this chart, and let's go with another chart we haven't used, the 3D chart. I'll edit it right here. Enter. And last but not least, right click, paste. One other thing I wanted to point out is the lower left hand corner of this particular chart. You'll see a thin blue line, and that thin blue line is indicating the distance between this chart and the prior chart is equal. This is just another tool that can be used to make sure that you are getting alignment, equal alignment between your elements. Yeah, so that actually helped me align the bottom chart as well. Double click, look at customize. Actually, we'll stay at setup. This is going to be we're going to use the stacked bar chart. Click on the customize tab, select or expand chart and axis titles. Correct our typos, and boom, there you have it. Now, there was one other thing that our original chart had that we're replicating here that this doesn't have, and that's the title across the top. And that's what we're going to do next. If you recall, at the beginning of this lesson, we did not we actually highlighted and merged all of these rows together, so there really isn't a row that we can select and enter information into, because rows 1 from 30 are all merged now. So what we're going to do is insert a row above row 1, and to do that we'll simply select row 1, right click on it, and insert row 1 row above. So what we're going to do, and although it may not appear to be a separate row now, if you look really closely, you can see your grid has reappeared, but only for 1 row. Okay, we don't want the grid back, and we'll address that in a minute. But what we do want to do is type in our title. We'll call this chart dashboard by quikStarts. That's us. Enter. Okay, then that's fairly small, so we want to enlarge that. I'm going to highlight the row again. I'm going to come over to the font size, and we're going to make that 24. It's a nice healthy size. I also want to get alignment on this title for a better look and feel. I'm going to align where this title begins so that it matches and corresponds to this first chart. And to do that, I'm simply going to tap the space bar. Nothing fancy. And now I have good alignment. Looks better. You'll notice the grid lines are still here, unfortunately. So what we're going to do now is remove those by simply highlighting row 1. After you highlight row 1, you want to select format on the menu. We're going to merge cells, but this time we only want to merge cells horizontally. And what that tells Google Sheets to do is, hey, every row and the row that's next to it horizontally, every cell that's on a row, merge them all together. That's what we've done. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether you guys can see this or not, but there's still a very thin gray line underneath of our first row. We don't want that. We want this all to look as if it's one huge canvas. So we're going to use a little design trick where we're basically going to come over to the borders tool on the secondary menu, tap that, select the border color, and be sure to use the same shade of the same exact color or shade of that color that was used for the background, right? In this case, it's dark cornflower blue 1, and then we're going to apply that color to the bottom border. Okay, and actually that doesn't look like it was the right color, so let's try another shade of blue here. Let's try this one. Actually, instead of guessing, what I'll do is I'll come back, and this happens sometimes. You have to actually, according to, by revisiting the actual row itself and being shown the color, you're shown the color that's actually selected. So we're going to go back to that, apply it, and to me it still looks a little off. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I'll try a couple of more of these. It doesn't seem to be changing at all, which is a little interesting to me. Let's try this. Okay, well, what I'll do is I will purposely so I'm not sure what happened here, but I like to have things work the way that I want them to work. That's what we're here for, and troubleshooting is always a part of doing any work with software. You won't see it in a lot of videos, but as I always say, nothing ever works the same way in the real world as it does in a lab. So let's merge the cells. I've created a new row. I'm going to merge the cells. I'm going to type in chart dashboard in Google sheets. So by quikStarts. Okay. And we're going to go through the same steps as we did before. I'll tell you one thing I would like to do is, after I increase the size of this font, I'm also going to change the color of it. So that was also one of our next steps. And success. Not sure what went wrong the first time, but we don't give up here until we get what the desired outcome that we want. And that's it. You've learned how to merge cells and rows, cells in rows and columns. You've learned how to merge cells just across rows or individual columns. You've learned how to create a dashboard. You've learned how to populate that dashboard with multiple graphs, bar graphs, donut, bubble chart, etc. And you've also learned to put a title on that. And then there's a bonus. You know, I can tell you that once you enter the edit chart section, there's just a whole host of things you can do. And actually, this 3D chart does not match the chart that we originally started with. So this is a good opportunity for me to make an adjustment on it. It should be a 3D chart. It should not be it is a 3D chart, but it's a 3D donut chart, and that's not what I wanted. So we'll change it to a pie chart, okay? And you may be saying to yourself, well, we already have a pie chart. And you'd be correct. Now, what I'm doing is looking through options because there's something else I want to do. And there it is. Select the check mark box on a pie chart. And I've converted it to a 3D pie chart. There are also other things in here you can do. For example, if I want to separate or move the slices of the pie out, you can do that by changing the distance from center on the pie slice. If I want to put labels on the actual slices themselves, we can have percentages show up. There's a variety of things that you can do to customize this a bit more, but this is a quikStarts video just to get you started on how to create a dashboard. If you would like to see other content for other things that can be done in Google Sheets or any software product, let us know in the comments. If you liked the video, you found it valuable, click the like button, and if you want to be notified when we go live or post other content in the future, subscribe and hit the notify bell.